Well, good day to you. Several of you had some questions about a KRA, and so I wanted to dig into this a little bit deeper. And since this particular individual that submitted this KRA, the key results areas, had some questions and wanted me to pick it out. It's quite an honor for somebody to ask me to do that, more so than just put a stamp a grade on there and say, well, you got that one done, now you can move on to the next. The things that I actually went through with him after getting permission to use this further in the class is this is really an instrumental part of your business right here, or could be. And what I mean by that is that there's a huge amount of ramifications if this is done properly. And that speaks to the process that we've been talking about throughout this whole class. And maybe you remember it, maybe you don't, but I just want to reinforce the fact that a business is going to live up to your standards and the culture that you've set within it. And it's really difficult to be on the inside of this thing and making the changes. And that's typically what the problems and the chaos that we face in the initial forming and startup phases of businesses, that we're wearing all the hats. The process is just get in there and work 14, 18-hour days and just get her done. But as we grow, we need to include other people. And in this unit, we talked about hiring and firing. And of course, the most important part about that is if we don't want to fire, is that we do some really good, excellent hiring. And having this in place can actually save you from a lot of heartache, because the firing deal, it is absolutely heartbreaking. It's hard to do. It's hard to do well. It's hard to do properly. Saying that, there's a place for it, and there will always be a place for it, especially if you have your best interest, your business's best interest in mind, and your intentions and your activities actually surround that by building a process which is not fail-proof, but in fact actually just works better than anything else. So what I want to talk about today is I'm going to use a specific KRA that this young man built, and he is putting together the business plan for this business as we speak. So I mean, it's really on his mind, and I can appreciate that. That whole thing of having skin in the game really makes a difference. We really don't understand the importance of documents like this until we're right in the middle of the storm, and we almost have to go through that storm before we actually are forced to put a process into bearing. So anyway, I want to jump off into the KRA here. It's not a job description. It's different. It's a different animal than a job description. It doesn't replace a job description, but in fact, it does do a little better job than a job description in some areas. Okay, as you know here, if our description of it before, you don't actually go, okay, you get to work at 8 o'clock. You do this step, then this step, then this step, and then this step. A KRA is all about winning. What does it look like to win? In business, we need to win. We need to win on a daily basis. We need to win on a monthly basis, and we need to win on an annual basis, and then we can take it out farther than that. Of course, in the long term, we need to win, and that could include things like building our net worth and the owner's equity within the business, and all those kinds of things come to fruition. But this is one of the very steps that we should take in order to do that. And we are acting in our self-interest because we're acting in the self-interest of others. It's not in the self-interest of people that we bring on board to have to fire them. It is extremely expensive to do so, besides the fact that it is just heart-wrenching to do that. Most of us do it in an awful way, me included in that department. Okay, so anyway, just take this from a guy that has some experience, or maybe a lot comparatively to you in those facts there. That I wish early on in my business career that we'd had some of these processes actually in place, because we could have done things better. But if I hadn't had those experiences, I don't know if I would have built the process. So there's some give and take in all of that. But anyway, I've marked this up. I think actually he really wanted me to say, well, this line needs to be changed and that sort of thing. At least that was our initial conversations on if this was a good KRA or not. I think it's actually a really good start to a KRA. And this thing is like, it's a draft. It's always going to be a draft. But it's also a contract between you and the participant, you and your new team member, that you have to fulfill. And that's where the responsibility actually starts. And there's a whole bunch of responsibility in here that you need to hold yourself, your feet to the fire within this whole context of this particular document. So let's kind of get on board here. I love the fact that he's got the mission statement. If we're mission focused in our business, which we all ought to be, we went over that way at the beginning of the semester, and it is so important. Don't ever lose your mission. Or, I mean, if it needs to be changed, then change the dang thing. And before you get way off, spun off in the wrong direction, of course. So I love the fact that he put it's just one more. Every chance you get with your team, you need to reinforce the mission of why you put these people together. And this actually is just one more way to do that. Now, the KRA itself should reflect your mission as well. So if winning is actually hitting the target of that mission, okay, and the KRA is all about winning, so how can you actually provide the steps that will ensure that your people can win on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and on into the future? Okay, so that's kind of the basis for this KRA. It's just, I would not get more than a page here, because I mean, I've built 5-page job descriptions. We go over them when we first hire and all that kind of stuff, but that thing is never picked up again. But this is one that you can use, as I'll explain here as we get down into them, okay? So I made some notes and things like that, but again, the notes I make here are mostly about holding the managers or the owners' feet to the fire in all of this, okay? So the mission statement sets the standard, it sets the target, it sets the goal, the ultimate goal. And we talked about the differences between goals and missions, but it sets that target for winning. And I like that. He states it twice, by the way, so in this, so good for this young man. Never, if you got the chance, have a chance to reinforce and restate your mission to your team. Then it gives them a target. Why are you here? What's your purpose in all of that? Our mission, that we strive to create a quality product every time. We strive to create a quality product every time in an honest, cutting-edge way. So he's got his motto already built into this. So this is terrific. So anyway, it sets that standard. Let's take a look down further than this. A couple of things that he sets as winning. Nothing goes out the door unless you would be comfortable eating it yourself, okay? Now, if you're going to hire somebody that will eat anything, then you need to train that person to what that standard is, okay? And people say, well, I don't have the tools, I don't have the time, all that kind of stuff. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But I mean, you're working 18 hours a day. If you can't take 30 minutes and train your people, then it's not worth doing. Caveat there. So training your people effectively to know what winning is so important. So what does that mean? You're going to have to go over that with them, what that means, because they may not have the same standards that you do as far as creating something that is quality enough for them to eat. Okay, what's quality in your standards is very important here, and training your people to do that would be very, very important. Second one is, says we respect all animals in their last moments on the kill floor. Okay, this means no ramming and jamming. Okay, so that's part of the training that he can go over. Okay, if they don't know what ramming and jamming is, then you need to explain that, what that is. You and I might know what that means. Maybe you don't, but maybe that needs to be explained. We will work all livestock slowly and quietly. Another training. What does that look like? So we're probably going to have to show that to a lot of people, especially if they haven't handled livestock in this manner. And there's a lot of people with a lot of experience that don't know how to do this. So retraining those people to actually know what winning looks like by your standards and your mission is so important. Now, how do you do this? Okay, and you know, you're going to have to adapt. It might be one-on-one training, okay, and I wouldn't rule that out. It probably is one of the selections that you'll make. Maybe that you'll put a YouTube video of you working those animals quietly and slowly. So it's a short YouTube training video that they have to view before you discuss it. The process you put into place for this kind of thing can actually enable you to win. So you don't have to come back after being away and actually somebody else running the kill floor, and you get back, it's all chaos. Maybe you put together a short video that shows what this actually means, and then you discuss it before it goes, and then you work with them through a couple of those processes as an apprentice role for them and an apprentor for you. Okay, so this is the more time that you spend training on people, the less time you'll have to spend with them later on down the road. That's what we want as a result of actually training. So this KRA holds our feet to the fire again. We're going to have to give our people proper training, what we mean in here, how to win, how fast, okay? At first, they're not going to be as fast as you are, possibly. You might hire somebody that is faster than you, and we get into this sometimes in the beginning phases. I mean, it's just the human brain. Recognize this about yourself. Sometimes we hire substandard people because we don't want to look bad or not to know enough. But if you recognize that about yourself, and you've got to get up and going right away, and this is kind of a philosophy of really great business leaders, is that, hey, I want to hire somebody that's better than me with those skill sets and that I can learn from. That's when you twist off and you can really get some momentum behind your business, is that you have people that can take direction but can teach you through the whole process to do it a little bit better, or a lot better in some cases. So if you really want to actually get some rocket boosters under your business, go after those people that know more than you do. I didn't understand this in the very startup phases of our business. It was always like, well, it was a little bit threatening. Understand that about yourself. It's normal to feel those feelings, but knowing those feelings, we can actually set them aside, put those, and know that we're about winning, okay? We're about our mission, and we can actually do a better job of business by actually hiring people that know more than we do. Okay, so customer service. This is one that in our business I didn't realize it at first. It's like I had to train people to greet people, our customers, and also the people that we worked around. Okay, you can practice amongst yourself, and then it becomes a habit. It's like, good morning, how are you, sir? To your colleagues. That could be the start. You have to set that kind of a culture, and you have to train that into the group. Many people actually, they don't get that. But it doesn't mean they don't have the ability to do that without proper training, proper culture, and that sort of thing. So that can be reinforced on a daily basis and instructed. You might come up with some other ways to train that too. And customer service, that's just like, hey, listen, we all have bad days. But that doesn't mean that you can't say good morning to somebody, or you can't greet them every time you see a paying customer, and that includes the people that are around you. And it doesn't mean that you can't put on a smile, even though you don't feel like you're very happy that day. That takes sometimes for some people, some really good people, some training to understand that. And that's the kind of face that winning looks like. Even though you're not feeling like greeting somebody, you still do, and it becomes a habit. It becomes who you are, and you can help your people in all of that. Okay, that's just the customer service part of it. But I mean, even in a farmer ranch where we just have a few people involved, even, those kinds of expectations sometimes have to be taught. Not everybody has the same background that you do, and the huge thing about this is that it might just blow your mind talking about all these responsibilities, because I decided to go down this KRA route, and I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. When you bring people in to your business, it's not all about you. It's not all about me. It's not all about I. Is that you can include. Part about being a great leader is actually learning to delegate. And just guess what? Some of your people are going to come to the top. They're going to be better than you. Maybe they come in better than you on training. Why not give them more responsibility in this area? You develop some YouTube videos. You actually do some one-on-ones. Part of your team does that rather than you, so you can spend some time actually managing the business and that sort of thing. And that's one of the things, one of my takeaways from actually studying a lot of successful businesses and winning myself, to be honest, having skin in the game, is the fact that process of delegation comes shining out to me when I read these KRAs, especially right now after having some experience. But doesn't mean that you can't learn this early on. Is to delegate. This KRA is just brimming with reasons to delegate, okay? Even if you have a very, very small team, okay? You don't have the time, energy, and all that to do all the things that you're required to do within the business, to do it all. That's why you're bringing them on. That's why you're hiring great people. And so you've got to give them some responsibilities in all this. Train. Okay? What else? We aren't killers, but rather craftsmen of edible products made from live animals. Don't be morbid. How's that look? You're going to have to train that to a lot of people. Some people kind of brought up living and dying on the animal end of things is just like, cut their throat. Put them down, get them hung up, get her done. What's that look like to you? You're going to have to train that. Okay? And you delegate. Actually, it's almost like a game. It's fun. when you actually see your people winning. You're rooting for the team and not rooting for you, and by your team winning, you're winning. Okay? Another process, part of the process actually, business process that comes out of this is that how will you evaluate how they've done? What's winning look like? Okay? How are you gonna, is there gonna be some number standards? How fast do you get it done? Satisfaction surveys to your customers on a regular basis, and those kinds of things. One of the most valuable tools that we ever did was do customer surveys on a timely basis. So because you want, if there is a problem with a team member, you need to nip it in the bud. The quicker the better. Not getting rid of them. I mean, in their self-interest, you just want to maybe tweak, correct, and those kinds of things gently. It's a lot easier to do that as it's happening or just as it's happened, rather than, 6 months down the road you heard your employee was really bad to a customer or treated them, disrespectful and that kind of thing. So what are those standards? And one of the things that was the learning process I had to go through, we were doing these surveys, and then I was getting feedback, and then of course I'd correct. Sometimes it can feel pretty severe when you're corrected like that. Okay? As I share my surveys, not only after they're taken, but before. Okay? The surveys that I give out are actually given to my team members. Before they're given to the clients, and then they're resubmitted with their answers. So that actually gives them some targets to hit. Okay? You still need to train. Okay? Now these are the things that are important, and these are the baselines that we want to hit in order to do that. Okay, so survey, really, really powerful stuff. You might figure out some other metrics in order to measure this, because you're going to have to evaluate these people. And I would say that communication is one of the things that we fall down on, especially in ag, is that on a regular basis, on a probationary period, maybe you're doing it once a week. Let's go over this. Let's go over your KRA. Let's go over your checklist. Are these being done? I noticed that this needs to be corrected once a week. Of course you're not going to do that for somebody that's ultra responsible, that's trained well, and all that kind of stuff as you go on into the future. You're going to have them do it, right? You're going to delegate. But maybe you go to a monthly type of meeting, and then you go to a quarterly. These things will nip a lot of things in the bud that we have problems with our team members in later on down the road. And our goal here is to be good to our people, so they'll be good to us. They win, we win in all this process. And we don't have to fire them, okay? At some point they might say, well, I've got a family, I've got this tremendous opportunity, I've got the skill set that you helped me build, and all that kind of stuff. And you know what? Yeah, you hate to see them go, but you've got a whole bunch of people in the bullpen that are chomping at the bit to get in that guy's position. If you're training well and you're delegating, you're giving responsibilities and you're winning and that sort of thing, and you're attracting good talent to your business, then it's kind of like, in one sense of the word, your heart's being tugged because they're leaving, but on the other sense of the word, you know you're going to be okay, because you've got all these exceptional people that you've been cultivating throughout this whole process. So anyway, let's see what else I had to say about this young man's KRA that he built for one of his team members. We, the leader, must be self-critical to lead by example, but human enough when we don't hit our own standards. So what I mean by that is that, nobody likes to see their leader always self-deprecating on themselves. that doesn't sound right, but it means if you look it up in the dictionary, you'll find out what the meaning is. But it just means that you never want to see your leader always tripping and falling all over themselves and all that kind of stuff. So you need to get good at what you do, being a business leader. Okay, and actually that's a skill set that needs to be honed. It needs to be refined and reinforced and learned continually and improved upon all the time. Great leaders are always reading books. That's one reason why, is because they got to stay ahead of their team in certain regards on leading. General Patton was a phenomenal wartime hero. And I mean, he was a phenomenal student of history, studying all the great warriors and generals of the past. And you're the general. You need to get better. Your team needs you to get better. But when you do trip, that you actually go to them and just lay it out. Just say, hey, listen, I misstepped here, guys. We're going to try to make this as as soft as on you as we can, but here's the consequences. Open and transparent. And one of the things that, and I probably have made this video long enough, but learned in business is that your team, if they really care, they'll always be asking you what's going on. And at first, it's a little bit threatening. When in the startup phase, or to a younger person or young man like I was, it could be somewhat threatening, but they ask because they care. So you could preemptively give them information. And I'm not talking about that they need to know your personal net worth and all that kind of stuff, but they need to know how the company's doing and what the future entails for them. What's your picture of where you're stepping and which way you're going and that sort of thing. And we're sharing our mission statement. That's our heart and soul of the whole business. So, it starts there, but we give details on a regular basis of what we're doing in order to hit the target, how to win, and that sort of thing. So sharing that with your team is just invaluable. And they'll be asking you for it if they really care. And that's one way to determine if they really do care. If this is just a paycheck, then possibly they're not. And not that you can't have those kind of people within your organization, but understand that there's only so far you can take that person in the organization too that's only worried about how much they're getting paid, and the paycheck being everything and everything. So, once you're in business and you get some key people from key results areas, little play on words, but you'll understand that, hey, listen, if people are putting their heart and soul to you, and it means relative in different businesses, this means different pay, is that you need to reward them by telling them they're doing a good job, paying them well, and giving them good benefits and that sort of thing so that they stick around. Because it's so damned expensive to retrain and get them out there so they can take some responsibilities, so you can delegate to them and all that. So hopefully, I didn't really talk about KRAs, but in a general sense, the KRA actually is the setup. If you have this, now you can go put the process together to reinforce the KRA. Hopefully that helped. I'm sorry for being so windy about it, but I get kind of enthusiastic. I know these things work. If you put together a process, it's got to be your process, your business's process. It's got to fit the mission, and you can win with a great team that you hire pragmatically and selectively. You get the right people, and Jim Collins talked about this in Good to Great. You get the right people, you get them on the bus, and then you put them on the right seat of the bus. And then you move them around. Once you recognize their talents and skills and where they really shine and that sort of thing, and that's even more fun. So business is great. I love business. and it's given me a deeper love for people too, in that regard too. So hopefully this you can take a little bit away from this.